Recorded Books presents Conflict of Duty by James Chandler. Narrated by James Anderson Foster. Prologue. The Tri-Basin Divide is among North America's lesser-known geographic phenomena, probably due to its location high atop the Wyoming Range in the western part of the state. To the east is the Wind River Range. To the north, the Tetons and Yellowstone Park, each of which is well known and draws hordes of tourists. In between and among the ancient peaks lies a fly fisherman's paradise, for atop the divide along the comparatively smallish range are the headwaters of streams that flow north and west to the Snake River, then the Columbia River, then the Pacific Ocean, south to the Gulf of California via the Colorado River, and also south, this time to the Green River, and ultimately the Great Basin. Each drainage hosts native cutthroat trout, the Snake River, the Colorado, and the Bonneville, respectively, which, combined with the Yellowstone cutthroat native to the Missouri River's headwaters to the east, comprise the fish sought by anglers hoping to accomplish Wyoming's cut slam, the catching and, preferably, releasing of each of these wily trout species. In search of trout before the late spring runoff commenced, Sam Johnstone began his day just before 4 a.m., when he climbed into his old truck and drove east into the foothills from the Flatland camping spot where he'd spent the previous evening. Because the snow was still measured in feet at higher elevations, he was confined to fishing the foothills. But he'd had a good day, and by noon he had landed both a Snake River and a Bonneville cutthroat. Thereafter, he'd driven 150 miles around the range, searching unsuccessfully for a willing Colorado variant. He'd caught dozens of fish, but all were non-native, rainbow and brook trout. By mid-afternoon, he called it a day and drove into a small town on the east side of the range. A full tank and a gas station hot dog later, he saw a combination coffee shop and bakery that appealed to the sweet tooth he'd developed since he stopped drinking. Now he sat contentedly in the late April afternoon sun, enjoying the sounds of spring, children playing in the town square, dogs barking, and the occasional motorcycle motoring by. For an instant, he recalled the events of the weeks prior, a grueling trial that culminated in his client and mentor Prester Daniels being convicted of voluntary manslaughter. Daniels was a retired district court judge and sometimes cohort of Sam's. Sam had defended him, unsuccessfully as it turned out, on a charge of killing his wife, who had died of an overdose. While the jury had acquitted Daniels of second-degree murder, they returned a guilty verdict on the lesser-included charge of voluntary manslaughter. Daniels had been sentenced to serve a stint in the county jail, followed by several years of probation, and refused Sam's offer of help with an appeal. Losing was hard on the now sober Sam, and this trip was his effort to put the recent loss behind him without resorting to booze and pills. He'd ordered a cup of hot water and a bear claw, which garnered him a brief but questioning side-eye from the gum-chewing teenager staffing the counter. He had taken his water and donut outside and sat at one of two tables adorning the sidewalk in front of the place. Reaching into his pocket, he retrieved a tea bag filled with an expensive variety of green tea. Since getting sober, he'd substituted green tea and candy for the vodka and hydrocodone he had favored for years. Aware he was being observed, he carefully lowered the bag into the water, looked at his watch, and made a mental note of the time needed to steep. "That looks like quite the operation." She was at an adjoining table, about his age, stunningly attractive, well-tanned, and, by the looks of the ring on her right hand, well cared for. "It's not that bad," Sam replied. "I carry my stash with me wherever I go." She showed straight white teeth. "And where do you go?" "Generally wherever I want." "And you take your stash—"
To keep listening to this audiobook, I've left you a link in the description so you can do it, at no cost thanks to Audible's 30-day free trial.